My name is Santiago, and before telling you how I reclaimed my life, I have to confess how I lost it. It didn't happen overnight. No, it was one off-key note at a time, a melody that slowly faded out, until in my house and in my soul, only silence remained. I was a violinist, not a famous one, not one who filled theaters, but one who felt music run through his veins like blood. My violin wasn't just an instrument, it was the extension of my voice, my joy, my sadness. And my house was my auditorium. I promised my wife Laura when we moved in that I would fill every corner with music. But by the autumn of my 45th year, the only music heard in that house was the rustle of foreclosure notices being opened. The silence was louder than any symphony. The dust on the strings of my violin was a testament to my failure. I didn't play it anymore. How could I? Music is born from the soul, and mine was mortgaged. I remember one night in particular. I was sitting in the living room, in the dark, only lit by the glow of the television. I held the violin, but not to play it. I looked at it the way one looks at an old love they have betrayed. On the table, the envelope from the bank. Final notice. Those two words were the requiem for my dreams. Laura walked in. My Laura. My anchor. My rock. And I was dragging her down with me to the bottom of the ocean. She told me with that soft voice trying to hide the trembling, "You haven't eaten anything." I couldn't even swallow. I told her, "Do you remember my promise to fill the house with music? Now there is only an echo of debt." She touched my shoulder, always strong or pretending to be for both of us. "We're in this together," she whispered. But I felt terribly alone. I felt the weight of her gaze, a mixture of unconditional love and a disappointment she was trying to hide. And then we heard it. Sophia's cough. My little girl, 10 years old. The sound that split what was left of my heart in two. Her chronic asthma was a monster living in the shadows, and that night, the inhaler that kept it at bay was empty. It cost $80. $80 that were a universe away from me. A father who couldn't give air to his own daughter. That night, I put my violin in its case. The sound of the latches was that of a door closing inside me. I felt hollow, empty, an absolute failure as a musician, as a husband, and worst of all, as a father. 2 days later, everything changed. Laura had insisted that I see Elena, our friend. She says she needs your help with some music, she told me. It was a white lie. When I sat across from Elena in that noisy coffee shop, I felt like an imposter, a ghost. Elena didn't waste time. "Laura called me," she said, and her compassion made me feel even smaller. Then she continued, "I was there, Santi. I know what it feels like not to be able to breathe." And then she placed a small bottle with a green logo on the table. Live good. My first reaction was bitter cynicism. "Please, Elena, don't sell me vitamins. I don't even have money for the coffee I'm drinking." She smiled sadly. "I'm not selling you anything. I'm giving it to you." And then she showed me her phone. She didn't show me figures or sales charts. She showed me a photo of people smiling. "This is my community," she said. "This isn't just about products. It's about people, about supporting each other." I shook my head. "I'm not a salesman, Elena. I'm a musician." And her next words, I will never forget them. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "Exactly. You know how to touch people's hearts. Now imagine if you can do the same with your story." I was still skeptical. I was an artist, not a businessman. But then I asked about the cost, about the minimum investment. Elena paused, and what she said next wasn't a sales pitch. It was a direct shot to my soul as a father. It cost less than Sophia's inhaler. All the noise in the cafeteria disappeared. I only heard the echo of those words, less than the air from my daughter. Suddenly, that small bottle on the table no longer seemed like a supplement. It seemed like a lifeline. It wasn't a logical decision I made in that moment. It was a desperate act of faith. The first trembling movement of a symphony, I didn't know how it was going to end, but that, for the first time in a long, long time, I felt the need to try to play. That is how my journey began. A journey that would take me to the darkest places of my doubt, and finally, to a light I never imagined I would see again. If you are ready, I will tell you how those first steps were. I will tell you about the clumsiness, the frustration, and the first ray of sun that slipped through my window.
Sharing their stories. Stories not very different from mine. I saw the leaders, not as unreachable salespeople, but as mentors, offering their time and experience. And most importantly, I saw the prices of the products for members. They were a fraction of what they cost elsewhere. I understood then that I hadn't bought a product, I had bought access. I had paid for the key to a store where finally I could afford to take care of my health. With the little money Laura lent me, I placed my first order as a member, a multivitamin and an energy supplement. It wasn't a requirement, it was a choice. My first proactive choice in a long time. And then, little by little, the change began. It wasn't a miracle, it was like tuning an instrument. The brain fog started to lift, I had a bit more energy in the mornings. The melodies in my head, which had been mute for months, began to whisper again. Driven by that new clarity, I made my first big mistake. I called my brother, Javier. With clumsy enthusiasm, I tried to explain the model to him. It's a membership, like Amazon Prime or Costco, I told him. You pay a small fee and get access to high-quality products at factory prices. And if you share the opportunity, Javier's silence was cutting. Santiago, he said, with a tone mixing pity and exasperation. Now you're in an internet shopping club? You paid for the privilege of spending more money? Get a real job, for God's sake. Stop chasing fantasies. I hung up, and the weight of his words crushed me. He was right. Who do you think you're fooling? You're a failed musician, not an entrepreneur. I called Elena, ready to give up. She listened to me with that infinite patience she has. And when I finished, she gave me the advice that changed everything. Stop explaining the business model, Santi, she told me calmly. And please, stop using other people's words. You speak. Tell your truth. Why did you join? Don't talk about the membership. Talk about why you couldn't sleep at night. Talk about the closed case of your violin. Speak from the wound. Your truth is the only story no one else can tell. Her advice was like a slap of lucidity. The next day, I met Miguel, my old cellist colleague. I didn't mention the word membership. I didn't talk about factory prices. I simply told him my story. I told him about the bills, the silence in my house, and with a lump in my throat, I told him about Sofia's empty inhaler. I told him I had joined something, not because I wanted to get rich, but because I needed a way to go back to being the father my daughter deserved. Miguel looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw the reflection of my own struggle. I don't know if it will work, Santiago, he said, but I want to try it with you. Send me that link. That night, I received the notification. Congratulations, you have a new commission. $25. $25. It was everything. It was the proof that Elena was right. The proof that my story, my truth, had value. It was $25 that didn't come from selling anything, but from connecting with someone. It was the first note, pure and clear, of a new symphony. The next day, I took that money, put it together with a little more, and went to the pharmacy. Placing the new inhaler on the counter was the most significant act I had done in years. When I got home, I went into Sofia's room and put the small box on her nightstand. Laura saw me from the doorway. Our eyes met, and in her gaze, I saw a relief so deep that I knew we had crossed a threshold. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room in the same darkness that terrified me before. I got up, walked towards the violin case, and for the first time in almost a year, I opened the latches. I didn't take it out, not yet, but I ran my fingers over the strings. I felt the familiar wood under my palm. The music hadn't fully returned yet, but for the first time in a long time, in the silence of my house, I could hear the melody again. That first commission of $25 didn't change my financial situation overnight, but it changed my mindset, which was a much deeper poverty. I understood that it wasn't about selling, it was about sharing a truth, my truth. A week later, Miguel and I sat in my living room. With us were two other people he had invited, a single mother juggling two jobs, and an older man who had lost his savings. There was no whiteboard, there was no presentation, just 4 cups of coffee and a circle of chairs. I was terrified, but I remembered Elena's advice, speak from the wound. So I told him everything. I told him about the dust on my violin, my wife's gaze, and the sound of my daughter's cough in the night. I told him how I felt paying for a membership I couldn't see or touch, and how that small digital door had given me back the feeling of being in control. In the end, I didn't ask them to join. I simply told them, this is my story. This is what I am doing to rewrite my ending. If it resonates with you, there is a place for you here. That afternoon, the two of them joined. My team was 4. The next week, we were 7. Then 12. My house, formerly a mausoleum of broken dreams, began to fill with life. Once a week, the living room became our operations center. People brought cookies, we shared coffee, and most importantly, we shared our stories. I heard tales of debt, illness, loneliness, and I saw how by being told, those stories lost their power over us. Money started coming in. First, it was drops, $50 one week, $100 the next. One month I looked at my account and saw $500 in commissions. That night, for the first time in years, I took Laura out to dinner, to a small Italian restaurant in our neighborhood. When the waiter brought the bill, I pulled out my card without that knot of panic in my stomach. Laura looked at me from across the table, and her eyes shone with tears that this time were not of sadness. "The music is coming back to the house, Santi," she whispered to me. And she was right. One afternoon, while Sofía was doing her homework, I took the violin out of its case. Not for formal practice, just for me. I played a lullaby, a simple melody I used to play for her when she was a baby. She looked up from her books, put down her pencil, and smiled at me. A pure smile, without the shadow of worry. She got up, curled up next to me on the sofa, and fell asleep to the sound of my music. In that moment, I felt I had recovered the whole world. 6 months after that first commission, I reached the platinum rank in the company. The income was no longer a trickle. It was a steady river that had paid off our most urgent debts. The foreclosure notice was a distant memory. It was then that I called my brother Javier. Not to brag, I invited him to one of our weekly meetings. He sat in the back with his arms crossed and his usual expression of skepticism. But that night, I didn't speak. I invited Miguel to tell his story. Then the single mother, who with tears in her eyes shared that for the first time, she had been able to sign her son up for soccer lessons. Javier said nothing that night, but the next day he called me. "Brother," he said, and his voice sounded different. I didn't understand. I thought it was about selling things, but what I saw last night, I saw people helping people. I saw hope. I am proud of you. The climax of my journey wasn't a check. It was an event we organized at a community center. There were about 100 people. My team, their families, friends. Elena was in the front row. Before the recognitions began, I went up to the stage, but not with a microphone. I went up with my violin. I looked at the crowd. I saw Laura, radiant. I saw Sofía, sitting on her lap, applauding, breathing easily and deeply. In the back, I saw Javier, standing, smiling. And then I played. I played with my whole being. I played the melody of desperation and silence. I played the dissonance of doubt and fear. And then I wove the melody of hope, the harmony of community, the crescendo of redemption. It wasn't a performance. It was my story, told in the only language that was always truly mine. It was my solo of hope. And in the end, when the last note faded into the air, the silence that followed was not of emptiness, but of pure shared emotion. Today, my house is full of music again, but not just that of my violin. It is the music of my daughter's laughter, of conversations with my wife without the tension of money, of calls from my team celebrating their own victories. I didn't become a millionaire overnight, but I recovered something much more valuable. I recovered my dignity. I recovered my voice as an artist and my place as a father and husband. Live Good wasn't the symphony, but it was the key that allowed me to open the door to the concert hall of my own life and start, note by note, to play my own music again. And that, I assure you, is the sweetest melody of all. And so ends, for now, the story of Santiago. A story that reminds us that even in the deepest silence, a single note of hope can start to compose a new symphony. Perhaps while listening to his journey, something inside you moved. Maybe you saw yourself reflected in his struggle, in his doubts, or in that desire to find the right melody for your own life. If these stories that touched the soul resonate with you, I invite you to be part of this community. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story, because every life is a universe worthy of being heard. And if, as happened to Santiago, you feel that curiosity or that need to find an opportunity to rewrite your own ending, if there are people among you who want to be part of this company or simply explore what it's about, I have left the path prepared. You can find the direct link right down here in the video description and also pinned in the first comment. Thank you for joining us. We will listen to each other in the next story.